What a Canadian Grand Prix qualifying that was!
It was wet and there were so many breathtaking moments.
These are our reactions to the 2023 Canadian Grand Prix qualifying. Hello and welcome back to the Purple Sector Podcast, where today we're going to be going through our 2023 Canadian Grand Prix qualifying reactions. I'm Isa.
And I'm Yusuf.
And we're going to be reflecting on what I would say was a pretty hectic qualifying session. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was very fun. It was wet, there were a couple of crashes, very foreign, not very foreign, very early on. Zhou Guanyu lost power and stopped on the side of the track. There was a red flag flown by the FIA, and then quite randomly, Zhou did a Control Alt Delete, which is what Monte Brundo was saying. I didn't really understand that,
Yeah.
and suddenly managed to get the car working again. And because you can't abandon red flags, they had to stick with the red flag. So we were delayed about 5 minutes, I think it was. Even though there was nothing, to clean up, and so everybody had already gone into the pits. So then they flew the green flag again, and we were back. Qualifying, and
Yeah,
it was quite fun.
It was a bit of a confusing one, that Zhou Guanyu incident right at the start of Q1. Literally moments after he came out into the from the pit lane, he just stopped in the middle of the track, and everyone was just, I think you were questioning what had happened, and then he stopped on the side of the track, red flag, continued on. I think the whole thing was a bit confusing, but I think it really set the tone for a great Q1, wasn't it? Because I think at the end there was a lot of it was quite how would you say, intense at the end, when everyone was really close together. Like, you had people like Lance Stroll getting through by the skin of their teeth.
Can I say, what a lucky boy Lance Stroll is?
Yeah.
He got through on the skin of his teeth.
I think he came, what, P14?
Yeah, he came P14 in Q3. And then especially...
Q1.
Q1, yeah, sorry. And then in Q2, he had a very, very close shave with the wall. I think he hit it.
Yeah.
I think he must have hit it. He got so close.
I don't think there was any damage.
And there was no damage at all. Yeah.
But yeah, looking at Lance Stroll, that was just a really all over the place qualifying, wasn't it, for him?
Yeah. I think it was an all over the place qualifying for everybody. Everybody was going off. Leclerc went off. And then apparently he didn't follow the bollards that you're supposed to follow when you go off at the final corner. So he might get a penalty for that. He's got called to the steward's office. Sainz has been called to the steward's office for impeding, which is something we've seen too many times over the past few weeks. Also, it was a very fun qualifying because it was wet, and I think we need to see more wet qualifyings. Obviously, that's the weather. We can't, force the weather to do anything. But it made it such a fun qualifying. And the best thing was, the FIA allowed it. And normally the FIA just don't. They will they will at the first sight of rain, they will red flag the race. And this time, like in Monaco, they allowed the race to carry on. And that really helped.
Yeah, it was a brilliant qualifying all over, and I don't think it can really be compared to Monaco. Monaco was an absolutely brilliant qualifying, probably one of the best, I'd say.
No, I meant the race.
Yeah.
Because normally in a race they would red flag it or put out
I
a
know,
safety car.
but what I'm saying is, like, compared to qualifying at Monaco, it's not obviously the best, but I think there was a lot of jeopardy, and obviously that makes it interesting. The jeopardy, it brings in mistakes and things like that. And we saw that from people like drivers like Lance and Oscar Piastri, especially in Q3. Oscar Piastri had that spin, and then going back to Q1, lots of spins, all around. I think, and the amount of impeding incidents we had across that whole qualifying session was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz, every single outlap that he did, or just before a flying lap, he would just sit at the final chicane, right at the final corner. And there was one moment, I think it was him.
Gasly.
It was him and Gasly, yeah. And then somebody else, I think, and then somebody.
AlphaTauri, there was an AlphaTauri involved.
Yeah, so the AlphaTauri was on his inside, and he would just sat there, like completely stationary on track.
At the last
and
corner.
Then Gasly came round. He had no idea that Carlos Sainz was there, and he went steaming in, locked up and had to take the escape road because Carlos Sainz was just there. And I don't really know why. And he just kept on doing it. So
And
he will be investigated after the race by the stewards.
And speaking of Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, wow, another
Yeah.
absolute stinker of a qualifying for Charles Leclerc, out in Q2 this time. And you could hear his anger and frustration over the radio. You could hear it because we saw it, the radio message live, and he was absolutely fuming with the Ferrari team. And it really does open up a lot of questions about Ferrari. Like, they really do need to get their act together. Just, it's been really a shambles for them. And I think the communication just wasn't there today between them and the drivers. Leclerc was wanting softs, and what was it? Leclerc was wanting softs, was it? And
Yeah, he did want to go onto the
and
slicks.
yeah, and then there was a conversation between him about Inters, and then he was just really annoyed about everything that happened. So yeah, it was a bit of just a disaster for Ferrari. Sainz got through to Q3. He didn't have the best of Q3s though. I'm not sure why he qualified. I think P8. But yeah, Leclerc, wow. I think it's just a question now. How long can it really just carry on of him doing this at Ferrari? I think he has to leave at some point, because Ferrari are clearly not just living, they don't, I wouldn't say that they deserve him at all. He's such a talented driver and he's being wasted, I'd say, at Ferrari. And I think it's been really shown today in qualifying. So yeah, really poor for Ferrari and for him. He's out, I think, P6, P14 or P12, I think it was for Charles. Yeah, really disappointing. Sainz, on the other hand, did get through to Q3, but then there was a red flag due to the Oscar Piastri, what was it? The Oscar Piastri crash, and that brought out the red flag, which meant the conditions were just getting worse, and yeah, he couldn't improve at all. So overall, not an amazing day for Ferrari at all in the slightest.
Also, Haas did very well. They were speaking about how they would be faster than most teams in the wet. I don't really understand why, but it showed because Nico Hulkenberg came P2, and maybe, just maybe, his wait for a podium. I don't even know how many years that wait has stretched over. It's the longest wait ever.
13, I'd say, something
Yeah,
like that.
and it's the longest wait ever, and that may be coming to an end.
No, I don't think so. You've seen this a lot of times, not just this season, but last season, where Haas have qualified amazing, but it's just fallen apart in the race. So, an example actually this season, Magnussen, very similar position due to a red flag towards the end. He qualified P4 in Miami this year and fell back to P10, so he only got that single point. And then obviously he got pole, that amazing pole last year in Brazil, also due to rain, and he was only able to finish eighth in the sprint race to gather 1 point in the
But
sprint race.
the thing that I'm kind of relying on here is that there's rain, because I think if there's rain and it's pretty heavy rain, I think Hulkenberg could hold them off.
No,
He's a
no.
competent enough driver.
I
He
think off the line, Alonso's got to jump, probably will jump him quite easily. And then you got Lewis behind there, and then you got Russell behind there, and then you got Ocon and Norris. That's really tough for Hulkenberg to hold that up. I don't think there's really much chance for him to be able to hold up that P2. So yeah, I think he'll probably be dropping out the points by the end of this race.
If
Personally.
you were Gunther Steiner, what um what strategy would you be putting Hulk on right now for
Well,
the race?
well, no, you can't really tell because you don't know what kind of what weather it's going to be like. I think rain, it just changes everything. Rain makes lots of differences to strategy, but yeah, you just don't know what's going to happen. It's most likely looking at rain, and I'm no tire strategist, anyways. I don't really know what's going on. So yeah, can't really tell. But I think Hulkenberg P2 not really going to be getting any points this weekend. But looking at his teammate Kevin Magnussen out in Q2. Not a great qualifying for him. It just wasn't to be for him today. And it always seems like, with Haas, there's always one doing absolutely spectacular, especially in qualifying, and the other doing absolutely dismal. Like Miami, Hulkenberg was out in Q1, I think it was. I can't remember now. And
Yeah,
Magnussen got like P4. And
that
then,
that is kind of sure. Like when Magnussen got his pole in Brazil, Mick
but that
Schumacher.
was
Yeah, I
Mick
know that
Schumacher.
was different, but Mick Schumacher he got out in Q1. I think it was last, and it kind of shows maybe they favor one driver each week. Who knows? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't really know. But it does. If you look at it, it's kind of weird. Every other week, it's the other one that's on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a drive from Hulkenberg though.
Yeah, I think to be able to get that P2 lap, a brilliant lap, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, due to the it's just because of the rain that he's in P2," but no, he did have to set a lap, as did everyone else, and he managed to set a brilliant lap that got him into P2. But yeah, really sketchy conditions. And looking then at Mercedes, a pretty solid practice. Sorry, not practice. Qualifying, you say to them after practice three today, where it wasn't looking too great for them. I think they were in the bottom half for most of practice three. So I think they'd be really happy with this. P4 and P5, Hamilton ahead of Russell. So to be in this position, I think after practice three, they probably would have taken it. This is a really solid position, and with Hulkenberg most likely falling back at the start and through the duration of the race, I think the podium is certainly on the cards for them. But a driver who I don't think will be getting a podium is Sergio Perez.
Yeah, and his list of wars carry on. Um, we will be doing a video, by the way, about all the biggest conspiracy theories in Formula One so far, and this is one of them, because there are a couple of people that are saying that they think that Red Bull are purposefully ruining Sergio Perez's season, and to be honest, it kind of looks like it.
To be honest, I'm not
He
really a
he
supporter of these
no, but
kind of conspiracy
just think
theories.
about it. If Max Verstappen is getting P1 relentlessly every single week, and Sergio Perez is just continuously qualifying absolutely terribly every single race week in such a fast car, and he gets out in Q2, it's just not good enough. Either there is some sort of tampering with his car. I'm not really a big supporter of that, but
No,
um,
no, they're not tampering with the car. I
yeah,
don't. I don't.
or just making them all around slow, because they made a really bad call in Q2. They put him on inters when every other driver was on softs, and it was so clear that they had to put him on softs, and they put him on inters, and I don't
No.
really know why.
I think yeah, it was just another. It was just a strategy blunder. I said another strategy blunder. Well, it wasn't really another one because they never really have these kind of issues. So yeah, it was quite weird that this happened for Perez. Yeah, I think he just had problems all around. Every time you turned to him, he was going off somewhere, on the inters, and he just was not able to get a good lap time together. Even at the end, he had that final lap time, and he was just so slow on those intermediates. They just never switched to the soft. I think they were on the softs for a while, but they couldn't get a good lap. They weren't getting good laps, and eventually, I think at the end they switched to inters at the end of Q2, and yeah, it just really never really clicked for Sergio, and his bid for the title I think has just completely extinguished after Baku, where he won that race. It's just gone down the drain completely. They're really struggling in the with Sergio Perez, in that garage. Compare it to Max Verstappen. There was all this talk about him being able to fight for the championship, but he's just so far off that now. And yeah,
Yeah,
but it's really poor for him.
Verstappen has a 54 points cushion over Perez.
And he did get pole position today, absolutely brilliant. But I mean, we haven't actually spoken about that once today, I think, because it's just so normal now for Max to be able, be doing this. You know,
Also, this is Hulkenberg's third career front row, and it's his first since Austria 2016 in the Force India. Do you remember
wow.
those?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I remember him in the Force India, but I don't remember that specifically.
Yeah, that's how old it is.
But yeah, amazing for Hulkenberg, and we really hope that he can get a podium tomorrow. I don't think it's gonna happen, probably won't. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see till tomorrow. And yeah, we'll be doing our post race podcast tomorrow, straight after the race, and you can go check that out as soon as the race is done. We'll be covering everything that happens. And now, just to completely go through the whole qualifying classification for the 2023 Canadian Grand Prix. We have Max Verstappen on pole position, and joined on the front row, he has Nico Hülkenberg, Fernando Alonso P3, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell P4 and 5 respectively, Esteban Ocon P6, Lando Norris P7, in P8 you have Carlos Sainz, P9 Oscar Piastri, and rounding out the top 10 is Alexander Albon.
In P11, with a torrid result, is Charles Leclerc. In P12, with an equally bad result, Sergio Perez. In 13th, got through to Q2 on by the skin of his teeth. Lance Stroll. 14th, Kevin Magnussen, didn't do that well. 15th, Valtteri Bottas. 16th, Yuki Tsunoda. 17th, Pierre Gasly, which was a bit of a shock. Nick De Vries is in 18th. Logan Sargent is in 19th. And then, to round out the grid, Zhou Guanyu, after his problem in Q1, is 20th.
Well, yeah, so thanks for listening. Make sure to go check out our post race podcast tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.